Hello and welcome to my class. To continue with the second chapter of class 9th civics, that is what is democracy and why democracy. In this video I will be discussing about an important feature of the elections, free and fair elections, right? And we'll be discussing the case of Zimbabwe. So let's start the topic. One person, one vote and one value is a key feature of free and fair elections. Right, when we talk about democracy, when we talk about a true democratic government, then election is an important feature of democracy where people elects their representatives, and these representatives forms the government and make laws for the nation. They runs the government throughout the nation, right? So for that important process of election needs to be free and fair, right? And when we talk about equality as a key feature of democracy, then it emphasizes on the political right of every citizen. That is, the universal adult franchise means every citizen should have right to vote, right to elect their representatives, right? But I'll be discussing some cases, I'll be discussing some nations where the right to vote is still denied, still not given to all, right? So let's talk about the Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, women are not allowed to give vote. Women are considered as passive citizens there, and they cannot participate in political activity, right? Then in Estonia is a small nation or a neighboring nation of Russia. In Estonia, the Russian minority group are not allowed to give their votes, right? Means in a nation, if the elections are held, then the minority group has no right to be part of political activity, right? Then in case of Fiji is a small island nation, and it is having a mixed population of native Fijian and the Indian Fijians, who probably for many centuries ago they might be the Indians, they might be taken as indentured labor there in Fiji, and they settled down there. So they are in Fiji, two types of citizens are there. One is the native Fijians, and those the second category is of Indian Fijians, right? So in Fiji, the value of votes of native Fijian is much more than the Indian Fijians. So the values are not same. Suppose a native Fijian is giving one vote, it equals to 2. And the value of an Indian Fijian vote is one vote, one value, right? Here it is not the native Fijians are having more value of their votes. So this ensures that only the rule of the native Fijian is considered there, right? So such are the cases which shows that the concept of universal adult franchise is not applicable in these nations, right? There are groups in these nations which are not enjoying the political right to give vote, right? So such governments in these nations cannot be called true democratic government. If a government needs to be a true democratic government, then it should work on the principle one person, one vote and one value. Then only the elections can be called true democratic elections, right? Free and fair elections. Now, talking about the Zimbabwe, through this case we'll be trying to understand the rule of law and respect for rights are essential feature of democracy. Now in Zimbabwe became independent in the year 1980, right? It was ruled by white the colonizers, right? And when it became independent, after its independence, the party which played an important role in their national struggle for freedom was ZANU-PF. This party wins the election every time, and its leader Robert Mugabe becoming the head of the government every time. Now this party winning elections after independence of Zimbabwe every time, and Robert Mugabe being the head of the nation, ruling the nation since 1980s, since its independence. Now this party won election by using many methods. They suppress their opposition parties, they suppress their the opposition leaders through violent means, by harassing them, right, by taking severe physical punishments against them. And they ignore the orders whenever any judicial appeal is made against their action. The government ignores such judicial orders. They didn't follow the orders of the court. Then thus here in Zimbabwe, the rule of law is ignored and the respect for the people's right were ignored. And every time this party ZANU PF wins the election, right? This shows that the popular government can be undemocratic, though public is electing the government, but after coming to power, that government is misusing the power. They are working undemocratically. They are not allowing the people to have their own opinion. They cannot go against the government. So such things such things goes against the democracy. So in proper democracy, a state should respect the basic rights of the citizens, like the freedom of their expression, their opinion, their freedom to protest against the government. If they don't find the government suitable, then they can protest. They can take a political action against the government. So such basic freedoms of the common citizens are ignored in Zimbabwe, right? And these basic freedoms, these basic rights needs to be judicially given to all citizens. Judiciary is responsible for maintaining this law, and every person in a nation, including the president also, including the prime minister also, they should obey these laws, right? Then only the country can be called a true democracy, right? So it becomes very essential in a democracy that the government should work within the limits of the constitution, and they should respect the rights, basic rights of the citizens. They cannot work against these two things. Then only a nation can be called a true democracy, right? So this is all about these topics. So please like, share and review and subscribe my channel. Thank you.